Dispatching all biters. My quest to free the country of zombies. Mystic Alchemist. Copyright 2020 Mystic Alchemist. All rights reserved. Written in Australian English. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places and incidents are either a product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual people living or dead, events or locales is purely coincidental. Chapter 8. Nigel the Mechanic. The lights were flashing in the mirror, so I made an instant turn to the side, stopping off the road as far as possible, Nigel's truck stopping close behind mine, his hand beckoning me to him and him still sitting in the seat. I made sure I had a screwdriver in my belt as I walked back, him still in the seat looking toward the middle of the cab. Speaking on the radio, he said when I was close, one hand down on the screwdriver handle. I turned on the car radio and there was talking. It was silent now and he was fiddling with the tuning knob. This wasn't a modern entertainment system with buttons and flashing lights. Only two knobs, volume and tuning. Not even any presets. I always leave it on. It was quiet, then just out of the blue it started talking. A woman saying Lenswood and then a string of numbers. Lenswood is a town over there, he was pointing to the left. She's not talking now, but the transmitter is still on, you can hear the carrier. You know about radio? Oh, a bit. Only the basics. What do you think it was? Another town I went through had dead people in piles along the main street. Looked like they were waiting to be taken away. In those towns there were no one walking around the roadside like there are here. Could the numbers be the amount of bodies needing to be picked up? This quest is getting harder, he said, turning to look at me. And we're getting tougher. Worth keeping listening to see what else we pick up, but we'll look more carefully so we don't meet those people. Unless we get better weapons, Nigel said. I'm definitely in favor of better weapons, I said. I'd like one of those machine guns. Or an RPG. A project to think about, I said, making ready to move off again. No more stops for a couple of hours. The farmland country we were still traveling through was pleasant and soothing on the eye and no other vehicles on the road, just the two of us traveling as we were out for a relaxing Sunday drive. When I stopped it was at a filling station at the edge of a small town, not stopping in the forecourt, but sliding alongside the other 4 cars that were parked there. Getting fuel, I said to Nigel, who was still by his truck, his rifle in his hand. I like to keep the tank full. He laughed when he saw me get my siphon hose and container. What's wrong with that? I said. Huge tanks so close and you can't get it out. This way works, I said, trying to find the fuel filler on the first car, Nigel the mechanic pointing to the other side and opening the filler before I got there. We were draining the second container into my car when we heard it coming. Sounded like a truck, so I dropped the container and pushed Nigel to look for cover. I had nothing but a folding knife in my pocket, but he still had hold of his rifle. We squatted alongside an ice-making machine that was leaning against the wall of the fuel outlet. Not a perfect spot, but hopefully the truck wouldn't stop. It didn't. It didn't even slow. Another of those large cream-colored unmarked trucks, the driver all in black, powering through town and beyond. I was expecting more and we waited until that truck couldn't be heard at all, but none more came. I've only found these come in strings of 6 at a time, I said as we started to stand up and look around again. Maybe not enough freight around here. Yeah. I got my axe from the car to leave while we finished the fuel, even adding 3 containers to Nigel's truck. I fancy some chips, I said when we'd packed the refueling gear. Game to try going inside. Nigel didn't seem so excited by the idea, so I offered something. How about you use that pry bar and follow me? You be back up. He nodded and I handed him the pry bar, watching him balance its weight in his hand. Stick it through the head. Just push hard. I added 2 screwdrivers to my belt and walked toward the front doorway of the business, another automatic door and 4 moaners walking around the glass, 1 for each car. Made sense. There might be a back entrance, I said, walking further on, Nigel actually right up by my side, the bar swinging in his arm. Sea salt, I said. Honey chicken or barbecue, he said. The back door was locked but we had come equipped. One large slash with my fire axe and it was open but with enough noise to wake the dead, those moaners now heading toward the open doorway. One on each side, I said, standing to the side, the axe up above my head waiting. Nigel the other side, the bar held up on both hands. I'll get the first one, I called as I heard the moaning close. Second for you. Splat. My moaner was dropping toward the dirt, his brain permanently split in two. Looking up I saw the second dropping too, but I saw that the pry bar was still stuck in his thick skull. A slash to his head from my axe shattered the skull letting Nigel pull it free and I saw his smile before he struck at the next one, a woman in a cook's cap. I was left with another woman. Girl really. She would have been very cute before but I couldn't dwell on that now. Slash. Top of her head loose and the rest of her joining the other three on the pile in the dirt. Stay cautious, I said. You never know when there is one hidden. We went in side by side, weapons at the ready. The storeroom, I said, passing behind the counter to where there was an open door, only a small room, but piled with cartons. 2 of chips and another 2 of energy drinks. Nigel piled up bars of chocolate on the counter. It took us 3 trips to get everything we wanted, but we had enough snacks for a week or more, even if we ate nothing else. I enjoyed that, he said as we stored the last load. Better than the last time. We worked good together. My first co-op. We both laughed and then opened one of the chip cartons to put a couple of bags in each vehicle. More miles, I said. It was late in the afternoon when Nigel signed me to stop. We'd seen nothing else on the highway since that solitary cream truck earlier. Nigel was pointing to a farmhouse high on a hill to the right. We might find some good radio gear there, he yelled back to me. Worth a look. He seemed so excited with the idea that I yelled for him to lead the way. He set off leaving me to trail behind for once, turning off the road onto a professionally paved track winding up toward a modern-looking house but I saw what Nigel said too. Behind the house was a steel lattice tower being used to hold 3 oversized TV aerials high up above the roof. This property had been well maintained, even had a manicured lawn with beds of flowers around 2 sides. If I was guessing, I would say they were old farmers with plenty of money and time to potter around the property. Nigel parked in front of a shed that had 4 roller doors, maybe to hold 4 cars. They should have the best gear here, he said when I was taking my time getting out of the car. I was thinking that with a place like this they might have had the facilities to hide from the infection and we might find more than undead people. Extra caution here, I said. Check everything carefully. I had screwdrivers in my belt and my axe in my arm as I started exploring around the outsides, part of me waiting for someone with a large gun to jump in front of me and ask me what I was doing here. The leads from the aerials go to a back room, Nigel said. Do you want me to open? Knock. He looked back at me, the pry bar making door smashing actions. Knock, I said again, coming closer to the door where he was finally taking my advice and knocking with the end of the bar on the solid-looking door. Hear any moaning, I said. I think he realized then because his ear was pressed against the door. Nothing, he said, his voice softening. Nothing at all. Maybe waiting to bash us. Let's check the windows. Side by side we circled the house, looking into windows and also trying the front door, even though it looked like it had never been used. All the views from those windows we could see were of a normal tidy house. Maybe the place was empty. It was my turn to knock. Anyone home? I said as I rapped. Nothing. The door opened with a turn of the latch and nothing lurched out, even when we waited at least a full minute. I nodded to Nigel and with both us with weapons held up we stepped for the doorway, him close behind me. I smelled it. Not strong, but there was definitely an odor of the undead. I held a finger to my nose and he nodded agreement, both us fanning apart investigating a side each. Someone's living here, he whispered, me following his gaze. At least 6 dirty dishes on the table. Someone hadn't bothered to clean but that odor was stronger now we were further inside the house. 2 doorways off the kitchen, one closed. I tilted my head toward the closed door and he came to my side. It wasn't locked and the stink told us why it had been closed. 3 bodies on the floor. 2 women, one old and one young, and an old man, a rifle in his arms, the barrel pointing to what was his chin. Looks like we've got another gun, Nigel said, his pent-up breath hissing away. That man was protecting someone, I said. He killed himself to keep someone else safe here. You sure? Nigel was prizing the rifle out of the dead man's arms. Whoever was eating on those plates. I was backing out of the room, ready to explore more, but Nigel was still working at getting that gun free. The open doorway was the beginning of a passage that looked like it went right through the house, ending at the front door with doorways on each side. All of them seemed somewhat ajar. The closest was to the left, so I burst through, attempting to startle anyone waiting for me to creep in. A single bedroom with no sign of life. The next door on the right was an open bathroom, but signs of it being used with dirty towels dropped on the white tiled floor. Right again. Another bedroom, single with unicorn pattern cover, all rumpled and clothes lying on the floor near the foot of the bed. Thinking back to my youth, I knew where to look. The bed had drawers in the base, so it wasn't under there, but the closet was closed. I won't hurt you, I said softly and with the most caring parent-style voice that I could muster, one hand ready to pull the closet door. We're only looking for people who aren't sick. Wham! The door was open and the kid was running past me before I realized what had happened. I've got you now, Nigel said behind me, I won't hurt you. Really truly. I looked to see him with both arms around a struggling kid. I'm sure their kicks were hurting his shins. You might need to help Axe. I came close and added my arms around the back of the kid. I did get a couple of whacks to my ankle before the youngster decided to take a break to build up strength for another attack. Was that your pa that wanted you kept safe? Nigel said, looking down into the kid's face. He would be proud of you. He was, the youngster said softly. You been trying to live here by yourself? The kid nodded. I'm Nigel and he's Paul the Axe. Nigel's head pointing to me and the kid's face following. It was a girl. Her dark hair cut short, a little like a boy, and her rounded face looking like it was filled with devilment. Who do we call you? Geraldine. The name almost whispered. Geraldine the Brave, Nigel said loudly. A fine name for a young warrior. We can talk while he checks the rest. What's he checking? Geraldine said a little louder than before. Anything that might hurt you and us. I checked the rest of the rooms. Another single bedroom and a double with ensuite. I checked the drawers and closets too, but only clothes and linen. The other 2 were in the kitchen, sitting in chairs and talking like long-lost friends. I passed them and went outside and did a look around the house for trouble before getting a packet of chips and large bar of chocolate from our supplies and returning inside. Geraldine would love some of that, Nigel said, ripping the chip packet apart and handing the opened pack to her. We named her well. She's been very brave in how she looked after here and I think she would be perfect on our quest. I looked at Nigel with my mouth open. I was telling her about our quest to find your princess and she wants to join us, Nigel said, then softly, I'll look after her, she can ride in my truck. Do you really want to leave here? I said to Geraldine the Brave. Before those men in black come back to get me. She was telling me one car came looking outside. They were those in black. She knew they weren't wanting to look after her. The chips were all gone and I opened the chocolate, breaking it into thirds. Nigel gave her his third and I did too once I'd taken one square from the corner. What about your parents? I asked. She pointed to the closed door. Mom. I think we should stay here for the night and get ready to leave first thing in the morning, I said. Geraldine the Brave will need to pack clothes and boots and Nigel the mechanic will need to decide what radio parts we can use. She's only 10, Nigel said when his new companion was off looking for what to take. We can't leave her. I agree, I said, I just hadn't imagined it, but I couldn't leave her either. We found the radio just off the kitchen. Nigel looked and said they were all really good gear but nothing that would work in the truck battery. Geraldine returned while we were inspecting the radios, dragging a small suitcase, one with the little wheels on one side of the bottom. Pa's got more radios in the car. He let me work them when we drove. You show us, Nigel said, the axe will watch our back. There was no undead inside that 4-door shed, just one car and an old farm truck and some neatly stacked boxes. Geraldine knew the spare keys were hidden under an old tin, and soon had the car unlocked with Nigel saying how great the radio was. It's a wide-range scanner. Should let us listen to everyone else on the road. I can push the buttons, Geraldine said. I'm good at making it go, Pa said. Apart from the scanner, none of us felt it right to search the boxes, even leaving the car keys back under their hiding tin. Back inside I asked Geraldine if she knew where her pa kept the rifle bullets and she took me to show while Nigel looked for something to prepare for dinner. I took 3 heavy boxes of this small size ammunition, I guessed enough to last a lifetime, but didn't see anything else obvious that we could use. I found there's gas in the stove so I'm boiling some potatoes and warming some tin peas. Then we got canned tuna, but everything in the fridge was off. Nigel nodded toward the boxes of ammunition. Be good to have some hot food. There was no water working in the house, but I found a tap outside that worked and we cleaned enough plates and pans for supper and maybe breakfast in the morning. The mashed potato was not the best I'd tried, but we all finished everything in sight and I had the feeling Geraldine would have more if we had it. Separate beds, I said, big day of travel tomorrow. It was still a bit light when I settled down into a soft warm bed, my axe on the floor by my side and sleep quick to come. I was woken by noises, Nigel and Geraldine. You okay? I said through the walls. Fine. She was just worried about being alone. I guessed what was happening and smiled to myself, that pair were as close as family already. I tried to go back to sleep but I couldn't stop thinking how much I wanted my own family, realizing how much it hurt hearing the muffled talking from next door. Then that brought me to my old apartment and that brought me to her and there was no way I could stop the tears. I hoped the pillow masked the noise. I hoped they were too busy talking that they didn't notice. I'd heard of people crying themselves to sleep but I never believed it before. Geraldine the Brave was lonely and snuggled with me in the night, Nigel said. Geraldine the Brave silently close, content she had found someone who would take good care of her. I'm doing breakfast before we leave. Tin of fruit salad poured over bowls of cereal. Geraldine loved hers, then leaving the plates we took our goods to the trucks, Nigel transferring most of the contents from the passenger side of his truck to the back and his companion making herself at home. I waited until they were settled before I started my engine and prepared to drive out.